Welcome, dear viewers. For more exclusive, thrilling stories, subscribe my YouTube channel. Sit back, relax, and sip your coffee. They say the forest breathes at night. I used to think that was poetic nonsense, until I heard it exhale. It started 2 weeks ago when I took a temporary position as a fire lookout in the North Cascades. I was broke, in desperate need of solitude and, frankly, done with city life. The job was simple on paper. Monitor a 50-mile radius for smoke, radio and any unusual signs, and stay alert during lightning storms. For that, they offered decent pay, a stocked pantry and isolation atop a fire tower older than my grandparents. There was one strange thing though, just one, but it's the reason I'm writing this down now. It was what the hiring officer said right before I left for the site. His name was Roger, a retired ranger with a leathered face and eyes that didn't blink enough. "You'll be stationed at Tower 9, he said, sliding me a manila envelope across the desk. "It's remote. Not many rangers take it. But you look like you can handle yourself." I nodded, half listening. The idea of isolation appealed to me more than the paycheck. Then Roger leaned in. "There's a manual in the cabin. You'll want to read it right away. And one more thing." He paused, his fingers twitching like they were choosing his next words carefully. "Don't look at the sky. Not at night. Especially if you hear the knocking." I laughed awkwardly. "What, like UFOs?" He didn't smile. "Just don't look. Eyes down. Head low. You'll be fine. Tower 9 sits on Dead Man's Peak. Yeah, that's really the name, about 5 miles from the nearest service road." I hiked up with my gear, huffing against the weight of my backpack. The forest thickened as I climbed, ancient trees pressing in with twisted roots and gnarled branches. The deeper I went, the quieter it got. Even the birds seemed reluctant to follow. When I reached the tower, it was just past sunset. The sky had bled into a deep purple bruise, stars beginning to freckle the edges. Tower 9 rose from a square clearing, its legs thick with rust and moss. A ladder led up to the cabin, a square box of glass and tin perched above the canopy. I climbed up, muscles aching, and unlocked the trapdoor into the lookout. The air inside was stale, tinged with the scent of pine, dust, and something I couldn't quite place. It was clean though. Someone had been here recently. The bed was made. A tin coffee pot sat on a small stove, clean and unused. There was a binder on the desk labeled Tower 9 Protocol. I flipped it open, half expecting boring regulations and safety warnings. But the first page was handwritten in shaky pen. "Do not look at the sky after dark. If you hear knocking, do not answer it. Do not speak. Do not look up. Wait until dawn." There were no other explanations. No signatures. Just that. I set the binder aside, chuckling to myself. Rangers and their ghost stories. Probably something to scare off rookies. Still, I closed the blackout blinds before I went to sleep, just in case. The first few days were uneventful. Peaceful even. I woke early, scanned the horizon for smoke or unusual movement, and logged weather changes in a dusty binder. The forest stretched out in all directions like a frozen ocean, emerald green and swaying. I spotted elk twice. No bears. No fires. At night, I read or listened to the shortwave radio. Static mostly. Once, I picked up a conversation in some slurred dialect I couldn't place. Probably Canadian truckers near the border. By the third night, I'd almost forgotten about the warning. Almost. That's when the knocking started. It was just after midnight when something tapped the trapdoor from below. Not loudly. Just tap tap, tap. Then a pause. Then again, tap tap, tap. I froze in bed, my eyes wide open in the dark. At first I thought it was an animal. Maybe a raccoon. But the taps were spaced evenly. Intentionally. 3 knocks. Pause. Then 3 more. I sat up slowly, my breath catching in my throat. The air inside the tower suddenly felt heavy, like I'd been holding my breath too long. The rules came flooding back. Don't answer. Don't speak. Don't look up. Except, I wasn't looking up. I was looking down. Toward the trapdoor. More knocks. Louder this time. I tiptoed toward the desk and grabbed my flashlight. I didn't turn it on. I just stood there in the dark, paralyzed with indecision. It was probably just a prank, I told myself. A ranger testing the new guy. Or some local kid screwing around. Except, Tower 9 was 5 miles from any road. And the climb up to Dead Man's Peak wasn't something you did for fun at midnight. Then the knocking stopped. And something whispered, "Hey." I spun, heart leaping into my throat. The voice wasn't coming from the trapdoor. It was above me on the roof. A soft, drawn-out syllable like breath against glass. He. I bolted for the blackout blinds and yanked them tighter. I couldn't see the sky, but I could feel it pulsing above me, pressing down. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat by the stove with the flashlight off, staring at the trapdoor, listening. The next morning, I radioed into base. Hey, Tower 9 checking in. Everything's fine. Just had some wildlife activity last night. A long pause. Then static crackled and Roger's voice came through. Copy that. You didn't look up, did you? My mouth went dry. No, I said. Why? He didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was quieter. Keep the blinds closed at night. And don't answer it. Even if it sounds like a person. I almost asked what's out there, but I didn't. I wasn't sure I wanted to know. The fifth night brought something worse than knocking. It started with a sound like wind. Only the trees weren't moving. I checked the windows, flashlight in hand, peering through cracks in the blinds. The sky was dark, moonless. Stars were out, but some of them were moving. No, not stars. They blinked in and out too fast for clouds. Some hovered. Others zigzagged like insects. I closed the blinds again and backed away. Then the radio screeched. A long, high-pitched whine like a microphone feeding back. And beneath it I heard a voice. No voices. Dozens of them. Whispering. Open. We see you. Look up. I turned the radio off. The voices didn't stop. I covered my ears and sank to the floor, curling in the corner like a child. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. I don't know. Time warped in that tower. Thoughts bent sideways. And then it stopped. All of it. Like someone flicked a switch. Silence. Dawn bled through the cracks of the blinds, golden and warm. The voices were gone. The air felt normal again. But I didn't move until the sun was fully over the trees. I thought about hiking down that day. Just leaving everything behind. Screw the paycheck. Screw the job. But when I packed my bag and opened the hatch to climb down, the ladder was gone. No, not gone. Twisted. Like someone had taken it in their hands and wrung it like a towel. The metal warped and coiled like it had melted, then frozen mid-thrash. I couldn't even see where it touched the ground anymore. The forest below seemed different. Darker. Thicker. And worse, the trees had moved. There were more of them now, crowding the clearing. I could swear there'd been at least 20 feet of open ground beneath me when I arrived. Now the lowest branches scraped the bottom of the cabin. The forest had climbed up to me. I'm still here. I haven't looked at the sky since that night. I keep the blinds closed and the radio off. I hear them sometimes, knocking, whispering, tapping on the windows with fingers that don't cast shadows. They want me to look. They want me to open the blinds. But I won't. I won't. Not yet. Not until I know what's waiting up there. And maybe not even then. I've started counting the days by how many times the sky tries to speak to me. Today was the 7th attempt. It started at 2:11 a.m., I know because I've been marking it in the logbook. The knocking returned, but softer this time, like fingertips brushing the glass. It came from the upper windows. And something new happened, something worse than before. It started humming. A long, low note, like a cello bow dragged across a rusted wire. It didn't vibrate through the floorboards. It vibrated in my teeth. I buried my head in a pillow and screamed until it stopped. When the sun rose, I peeked through the narrow slit between the blinds. The forest was breathing again. I know how insane that sounds, but I swear it. I watched the trees sway in unison, even though there was no wind. The branches moved in a circular motion, spiraling inward toward the tower. Like the woods were trying to funnel something up to me. The warped ladder remained twisted and unreachable. No one had come to repair it. No one had even contacted me since that last radio call with Roger. I tried the radio again this morning. Static. Then beneath the noise I caught something. Don't open the message repeated, broken up by crackling interference. Eyes. And then silence. Around noon I spotted movement in the clearing. Something, or someone, was standing just beyond the tree line. A black silhouette, too still to be human, too tall to be anything I recognized. It didn't move like a living creature. It tilted. As if its joints bent at wrong angles like a marionette without strings. It stayed there for hours. Just standing, just staring. Then, without turning, it walked backward into the trees, vanishing into the shadows. That was the first time I considered jumping. I'm not proud of the thought, but there's a part of me that figured a broken leg was better than staying up here another night. I even tied a rope from the supply closet around my waist, planning to lower myself down in stages, tree to tree. I'd almost opened the trapdoor when I noticed something new. The sky had changed color. It wasn't blue. It was maroon, thick and heavy like coagulated blood, with clouds that didn't move, but flickered. Like a video looping the same frame over and over. And worse? There were shapes behind the clouds. Things moving in straight lines. Mechanical but not. I shut the trapdoor and nailed it shut. Later that evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, the voice returned. Only it wasn't whispering this time. It spoke. Daniel. I froze. I hadn't heard my name in days. It echoed from outside, maybe beneath the tower, maybe in the sky. I couldn't tell. But it was my name. Daniel, look. It wasn't inhuman. That made it worse. It sounded like my father's voice. Calm, authoritative. The way he used to sound when I was little and did something wrong. Daniel, look up. I need you to see me. I backed into the corner and covered my ears. The air got colder, the temperature dropping by 20 degrees in seconds. My breath fogged in front of me. I shut my eyes tight, rocking slowly. Then the tower shook. Something hit it. A massive thud like a falling tree, or a body made of steel. Then another. And another. The whole structure groaned. I screamed. I screamed so loud my throat went raw. Whatever it was trying to get in. I don't know how long I curled there in the dark, but at some point the shaking stopped. The air warmed. The whispering faded. And I passed out from sheer exhaustion. I woke to scratching at the windows. It was light out. Safe again. Or so I thought. The scratching wasn't from outside. It was coming from inside the walls. I pressed my ear against the wooden paneling and heard something crawling. Moving slow and wet, dragging itself through the crawl space behind the insulation. I pried open the panel near the baseboards. Nothing. But the wood was slick. I touched it and pulled my hand back. Blood. Thin, fresh lines of it, running vertically as if they were bleeding from the ceiling downward. I slammed the panel shut and backed away. Then I heard the voice again. Only this time, it came from inside the cabin. Daniel. I spun. There was a figure in the corner. Not standing, hanging. Hovering a few inches off the floor. Head tilted, arms limp at its sides. Blank white eyes. I reached for the axe mounted on the wall, but when I blinked, it was gone. No sound. No exit. Just gone. I checked every corner of the cabin, but nothing else was disturbed. No broken glass. No entry point. It hadn't come in. It had always been here. That night I did something I regret. I opened the blinds, just 1 inch, just enough to peek out. What I saw haunts me still. The stars weren't stars. They were eyes. Thousands of them, blinking in synchronized patterns across the maroon sky. Some large, others the size of pinholes. They pulsed like jellyfish, illuminating a vast, living mass stretching across the night. The sky wasn't a sky. It was a creature. An ocean of watching, waiting hunger. And every one of those eyes was fixed on me. I slammed the blinds shut, but the damage was done. Something had seen me. And now it was coming. The next morning, the shape returned to the tree line. Only this time it was closer, standing just 15 feet from the base of the tower. It looked like a man, but not. It was wearing my uniform. Same jacket, same backpack. Same face. But the smile stretched too wide. I watched from a slit in the blinds as it lifted a hand and waved at me. Then it reached into its mouth, unzipped it, and pulled out something black and glistening. A long, writhing cord of shadow. It held it up like an offering. And then it started climbing the air. No ladder. No support. Just ascending. Right toward me. I bolted the hatch shut and shoved everything heavy against it. Table, bunk, tool chest. The radio crackled again and Roger's voice came through for the first time in days. Daniel, he said, his voice hushed and shaking. It's already inside. You need to listen carefully now. There's only one way to survive this. I grabbed the receiver. What the hell is happening to me? What are those things? He hesitated. They're not things. They're reflections. Of something that's always been watching us. You looked. That's all it needed. I backed into the corner, trembling. I didn't mean to. I know, Roger said. But it knows you now. And if you let it finish the climb, if it reaches you, it doesn't just take your body. It takes your memory. Your existence. You'll never have been. What do I do? Static. Then a whisper, burn it down. I blinked. What? Roger's voice returned, but now it sounded distant, warped, like he was being pulled away. Tower 9 was never meant to keep watch. It was meant to contain. You're not the first, Daniel. But you need to be the last. Burn it all. Before it spreads. The radio died. And the thing climbing the air was only a few feet below the trapdoor. I ran for the emergency kit and pulled out the flares. There were 3. Then the fuel tank, half full. I hesitated. Could I really do this? Set fire to my only shelter in the middle of nowhere? But then the knocking resumed. Only it wasn't from below. It was from inside the walls. Then the ceiling. Then all at once. Knock. 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 Knock 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 knock. I screamed and lit the first flare. Smoke filled the cabin instantly. I tipped the fuel across the floor, coughing and weeping. My vision blurred. Heat licked the corners of the room. And as the first flame caught the baseboards, I heard it. A sound not meant for human ears. A shriek like glass breaking inside my brain. Then silence. Real, perfect, beautiful silence. As the fire consumed the tower, I jumped from the side and caught a low-hanging branch. It cracked under my weight, sending me tumbling into the underbrush. I rolled, limbs shattering against roots and stone. I lost consciousness. When I woke up, it was morning. Tower 9 was gone. And the sky? Well, perfect and empty. But as I stumbled down the trail, one thought kept gnawing at me. What if it wasn't the only one? The fire should have drawn someone. Rangers, firefighters, hell, even a curious hiker. Tower 9 had gone up in flames like a pyre to the gods, burning bright enough to be seen from miles away. But no one came. Not the next day. Not the day after. I wandered the woods in a daze, clothes singed, limbs aching, the skin on my left forearm blistered where the heat had licked too close. My canteen was nearly empty. The compass was useless, spinning endlessly as if the woods themselves had forgotten where north was. And the worst part? The sky was still blue. But it didn't feel right. It felt like a mask. By the third night, I found a ranger station, or what was left of one. It looked long abandoned. Ivy choked the outer walls, windows cracked and dust-caked, the metal signage eaten by rust. But the strangest thing? I recognized it. I'd passed it on my hike into the forest 2 weeks earlier. Back then it was pristine. Well kept. Generator humming. I'd even chatted with the ranger there, an older guy named Ellis who'd warned me to keep my head down at Tower 9. Now it looked like no one had stepped inside for years. I forced open the door and immediately gagged. Something had died in there. Multiple somethings. The scent of rot was buried in the floorboards, soaked into the walls. Flies buzzed in manic clouds. I covered my face and pressed forward. The inside was untouched. A table with 3 chairs. A map of the forest pinned to the wall. A bunk. A radio long dead. And a single journal resting on the desk, its pages yellowed and warped by age. The first entry was dated 1976. I read the whole thing by flickering lantern light, rain pounding on the tin roof. It wasn't a ranger log. It was a confession. Written by someone named Paul Weller. A lookout stationed at Tower 9 before it was removed from official records. Each entry grew more unhinged. August 5, 1976. Heard something moving in the sky last night. Not a plane. Too big. No lights. The stars disappeared for a full 5 minutes like they blinked out. August 12. Got a call from base telling me not to observe any celestial anomalies. What does that even mean? August 23rd. Something's wrong. Time is slipping. I'll wake up and the food is half-eaten. My shirt's unbuttoned. I'm missing time. I think I've been looking in my sleep. September 2nd. There's a second me. He stands in the clearing and waits. And every time I close my eyes he gets a little closer. September 13th. The forest is a membrane. And it's tearing. The final entry was dated September 14th. I burned the tower. But the reflection is still here. It knows my name. Is trying to get inside my skin. If anyone finds this, don't look up. Ever. The sky is not ours. There was blood smeared across the last line. And below that a child's handwriting. Daniel, come home. I dropped the journal and staggered back. My name. In a journal that was almost 50 years old. I left the ranger station at dawn. The forest was darker now. Not nightfall dark, but dim, as if the sun was trying to shine and failing. Trees leaned inward, branches nodded unnaturally. The air smelled like copper and burnt feathers. I hiked for hours in circles. Every path led back to the same clearing. Eventually I heard something. A radio. Wick. Static choked. But I followed it like a lifeline. The sound led me to a cave. Low and narrow, covered by moss and half buried beneath a fallen tree. I squeezed inside. What I found nearly made me scream. The cave was filled with mirrors. Hundreds of them. Some cracked, some warped with age, others pristine. Propped against the walls. Hanging from the ceiling. All angled toward the center of the cave, where a single camp lantern flickered, lighting up a small wooden chair. And seated in that chair, was me. Or something wearing my face. Its eyes were sewn shut. Mouth stitched too, but twitching as if words strained to break free. Its limbs trembled. Its head jerked toward me like a puppet yanked by invisible strings. I stumbled back. But behind me I heard movement. A second figure emerged from the darkness. A man with no mouth, skin paper-thin and translucent. He wore a ranger uniform. Ellis. But older. Decayed. His chest rose and fell like he was breathing water. He handed me a Polaroid. It showed me. Sitting in Tower 9. But in the sky above? A hand. Massive and skeletal, reaching down from the clouds. Ellis pointed toward the mirrors. I turned. And for a split second I saw everything. 1,000 reflections, each showing different versions of me. Some screaming, some bleeding, some smiling with rows of needle teeth. One was on fire. One floated upside down. Another had no face at all. And every single reflection turned to look at me. Then the mirrors shattered at once. Glass rained down, slicing my skin. The lantern exploded, plunging the cave into darkness. I ran. Outside, the forest had changed again. The trees were wrong. Smooth white trunks. No branches. No leaves. They stretched upward like bones. And in the sky, no clouds. Just that thing. Not a shape. A presence. Like gravity turned inside out. A void that watched, waited, and whispered. And the worst part? It spoke again. Daniel. The sound was inside my lungs. Like I was breathing it in. Come closer. The ground split open at my feet. A pit, circular and endless. And far below I saw the fire tower, unburned. Standing intact. Someone was inside staring up at me. It was me. But not now me. It was the version of me that had first arrived. Clean shirt. Eager eyes. Clipboard in hand. I screamed down at him. Don't look up. But he didn't hear me. Instead he tilted his head. Blinked. And slowly raised his eyes toward the sky. The moment he did, the pit screamed. A wall of wind blasted upward, pulling me toward the edge. My legs left the ground. I thought I was going to die. But something grabbed my arm. Pulled me back. I landed hard, rolled, and looked up. Into Ellis's face. Only it wasn't rotted anymore. He looked restored. Human. Real. You don't belong here, he said. They're trying to trap you. You've seen too much. I don't understand. What are they? He looked to the sky. Reflections. Echoes. Dead things pretending to be alive. And they're hungry for more. He handed me something wrapped in cloth. A flare gun. One shot left, he said. Use it when they come for you again. And then what? Then run. Don't stop until the forest ends. But, where do I go? Ellis gave a sad smile. You'll know. Then he stepped backward into the pit. And vanished. That night I found a trail. I don't know how. It wasn't on the maps. It looked carved recently, bark scraped, rocks overturned, the kind of path made by something massive dragging itself through. I followed it. The deeper I went, the quieter it got. No birds. No insects. Just my footsteps. And the breathing. Soft. Wet. Slow. Coming from above. The canopy moved like a mouth. When I passed beneath it, a drop of black fluid hit my shoulder. It sizzled on contact. Burned through my shirt. I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Every branch twisted toward me. Every shadow reached. And somewhere behind me, I heard my own voice whispering my name over and over. Daniel. 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 I fired the flare straight up. It burst through the trees in a screaming arc of red fire. The forest screamed back. Everything shrieked. The sky cracked. The void opened. And from the trees a dozen figures stepped out. Each one a version of me. All of them smiling. All of them whispering. You looked. I ran. Branches clawed at my arms. Roots grabbed at my ankles. But I didn't stop, couldn't stop, not with a dozen versions of myself behind me, all whispering in unison. You looked, you looked. Each one moved in jerky, unnatural ways, shoulders twisting the wrong direction, feet dragging like broken marionettes. One of them had no eyes. Another had a mouth that stretched ear to ear, and as he grinned my grin, he began to laugh, a sound that echoed in every direction, bouncing between trees like sonar. I veered left into a ravine, sliding down mud-slicked rocks. My hands were bleeding. My lungs burned. Above me the sky began to flicker. Not like lightning. Not even like starlight. It blinked. The entire sky blinked. And when it opened again it was watching. Somewhere deep in the forest I found an old tunnel, probably an abandoned mining shaft. Half covered in moss and rubble but just wide enough for me to crawl inside. I squeezed through the entrance and collapsed, shaking. For the first time since the tower burned, I was alone. Or at least I thought I was. The tunnel smelled like dust and old iron. I couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. But I heard something, a soft hum, low and steady like machinery far underground. I turned on my flashlight. There were scratches on the walls. Not random. Words. Symbols. Overlapping lines etched into the rock by thousands of hands. Some were familiar, runes, stars, eyes. Others were moving. One glyph pulsed as I watched it. Another bled. I pressed deeper into the shaft, dragging my fingers along the wall to guide myself. And then I heard it again. Not the whispering. Music. A lullaby. Hummed softly, echoing off the stone. I followed it until I found a door. Rust-covered. Bolted shut. But behind it I could see light, warm, golden like candlelight. I knocked. The music stopped. For a moment nothing happened. Then the door unlatched by itself. And opened. The room inside was impossible. It was a cabin. Wooden walls. Fireplace crackling. A table set for two. On the wall hung a painting of Tower 9, pristine and whole, with blue skies overhead. A woman stood beside the fire. Middle-aged. Pale skin. Eyes sunken with age but filled with recognition the moment she saw me. She smiled. "You made it," she said. "I was starting to think you'd given in to them." I stepped inside slowly. "Who are you?" "My name is Marin. I used to be you." "What?" She gestured toward the table. "Sit. You need to hear the rest." I sat across from her, every muscle tensed to bolt. The heat of the fire felt too real. The food smelled too perfect. "You were warned not to look up," she said. "But that warning doesn't come from fear. It comes from memory. All of us, all the ones who worked Tower 9, were the same." I shook my head. "No, I'm not." "You are," she said firmly. "We are all drawn to the sky. Something in it calls us, tests us. It wants to see who looks, and who doesn't." Her eyes darkened. "Most fail." She pulled something from under the table, a photograph. It showed dozens of fire towers stretching into infinity, each with a version of me in it. Some sleeping. Some burning. One standing at the edge of a platform seconds from jumping. "You're in a cycle," she said. "A reflection repeating itself over and over. You were never meant to escape." I stared at her. "Then what's the point of this?" "To remember. And to choose." She slid a knife across the table. "One path leads to the forest's end," she said. "The other leads to the sky." I didn't touch it. Instead I asked, "What's in the sky?" Her smile vanished. "Nothing." That single word carried more horror than anything I'd seen. Nothing. Not emptiness. Not vacuum. But anti-being. A place where thought unraveled, where identity collapsed. "Why does it want us to look?" I whispered. She looked into the fire. "Because every time one of us does, it gets a little closer to remembering what it was." I stood. "I want out." "Then stop asking questions," she said. "Run. Don't follow the music. Don't trust the mirrors. Don't believe your own voice. If you hear yourself speak, cover your ears and don't answer." She handed me a key. "Follow the red trees. They're your last chance." Before I could respond, she faded. Her whole body dissolved into ash. The fire went out. And I was alone again. Back outside, the forest had shifted again. The trees were no longer green. They were crimson. Their bark peeled like sunburned skin. The path ahead was narrow, lined with totems made of bones and feathers. The sky was flickering faster now. Each time it blinked, I felt something being taken. A memory. A word. My own name slipping to the edge of forgetting. I repeated it under my breath. "Daniel. Daniel. Daniel." Because if I forgot that, I'd be like them. The red forest was alive. Not metaphorically. Literally. The ground pulsed beneath my boots. The trees breathed in sync, slow and wet. I could hear the rhythm of 1,000 hearts beating under the soil. And up ahead I saw light. Not fire. A tower. Another one. But not Tower 9. This was Tower 10. Newer. Unmarked. Surrounded by silence. I approached cautiously. The wind had stopped. The sky was black, not night but blank like a canvas wiped clean. As I climbed the ladder, each rung felt colder. My breath misted. Halfway up I heard something below. Footsteps. Not running. Just following. I didn't look down. At the top I entered the tower. It was empty. But waiting on the desk was a second journal. Identical to the one in the ranger station. I flipped it open. The first page read, "Welcome back, Daniel. Did you find what you were looking for? The next page was blank. Then the ink began to spread on its own. Words formed. You've seen the edge. The tear in the veil. The mouth in the sky. But you haven't asked the most important question. Who built the towers? I dropped the journal. A voice filled the room, deep, hollow, vibrating through the walls. You think the sky is watching you? Pause. You're wrong. Another flicker of the sky outside. This time it blinked sideways. The tower shook. And outside I saw them. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Pale figures lining the tree-line. Motionless. Watching. Each of them wore my face. One stepped forward. Raised a hand. Pointed upward. I turned my gaze. Almost. And then I remembered Marin's words. Don't answer your own voice. But the tower radio crackled to life. Static. Then my voice. Daniel, can you hear me? I didn't answer. Daniel, I need you to look up. Just for a second. Please. I'm trapped. Sounded like me. Cried like me. Begged like me. I grabbed the flare gun. My last shot. I aimed not at the sky, but at the radio. Pulled the trigger. Flames consumed the desk in a blink. The voice screamed, splitting into dozens, all howling in my pitch, overlapping in madness. The tower shook again. I bolted down the ladder into the red forest, running faster than I ever had in my life. Behind me the tower collapsed in silence. And then, I found it. The clearing. Massive. Open. Untouched by the nightmare trees. And in the middle of it, a pool. Still water. Black as obsidian. But it reflected nothing. No trees. No stars. No sky. Just a door resting flat on the surface. A wooden trapdoor. Labeled in old, burned letters, Exit. I stepped toward it. The moment I touched the handle, the sky above me broke open. Not thunder. Not lightning. It tore like paper. And behind it, I saw what watches. A face without form. A thought made flesh. Not God. Not devil. Just awareness. It reached down. But I jumped. I fell through the door. The forest disappeared. And I woke up, on the side of the highway. A trucker found me walking barefoot near mile marker 21. I was covered in soot. My hands blistered. My eyes bloodshot. But I was alive. The doctor said I was lucky. I don't feel lucky. Because I know it's still there. I still see the flicker in the sky sometimes. Still hear my voice whispering when I try to sleep. And I know what's coming next. Because the forest doesn't let go. Just waits. And watches. I tried to live normally after that. A quiet apartment in the city. No woods. No towers. Just pavement, noise, and crowds. I took a job at a hardware store. Nothing fancy. Just enough to keep me busy. Keep my mind off that place. But even in the city, the sky still flickered. Subtle at first. A shimmer at the corner of my eye. A brief ripple in the clouds. A hum in my ears when I looked too long. Then came the dreams. Always the same. I'm standing in a forest that's wrong. The trees pulse. The stars bleed. My voice echoes before I speak. And above me, that massive lidless eye. Watching. 3 months passed. Then the letter came. No return address. No postage. Just sitting on my kitchen table one morning like it had always been there. I opened it. Inside, a single line written in clean, blocky handwriting. You blinked first. I dropped it. My hand shook. I hadn't told anyone, about what happened in that forest. But now I knew. Remembered me. And worse, was inviting me back. The next day the sky turned red. Not a sunset red. Not pretty. Wrong. People noticed. Birds flew in the wrong direction. Phones stopped working. Static filled every TV and radio station. Some people panicked. Most ignored it. But I knew better. This wasn't just weather. It was the boundary opening. I didn't plan to go back. But I couldn't stop myself. That night, I found my old truck still parked outside the ranger station as if I'd never left. Keys in the ignition. Fuel tank full. A familiar path stretched ahead of me. Tower 9 was gone, burned to ash. Tower 10 had vanished entirely. But something new had risen in their place. A spire. Dark. Taller than any tower I'd seen. Smooth as obsidian. Silent as a tomb. I walked toward it through a forest that no longer looked like earth. The trees were too tall. The moon hung too low. Shadows moved without cause. And the deeper I went, the more I remembered. Voices. Faces. The woman in the fire. The doppelgangers in the trees. The flickering sky that had peeled itself back to reveal a mouth that thinks. The spire waited at the center of it all. No ladder. Just a door. I opened it. Inside, mirrors. Every wall, floor, and ceiling reflected not just me, but thousands of me's. Some smiled. Some screamed. Some stood perfectly still watching. At the far end of the corridor was a staircase spiraling upward, impossibly tall. It twisted in ways that made my stomach churn just to look at it, but I climbed. Step by step. Floor by floor. Each landing brought a new reflection. New memory. I saw myself as a boy, staring at the stars with a telescope. Then older, running from a fire I didn't remember starting. Then, tower duty. Only not the one I knew. Hundreds of versions of it. Thousands of me, over and over, trapped in variations of the same story. Each one different. Each one the same. And at the top, a single door marked. Final transmission. I hesitated. But I opened it. The room beyond was a viewing chamber. A massive, domed observatory filled with black glass. And in the center, a single chair. Facing the sky. Not Earth's sky. Something older. Vast. Empty. Stretching in all directions like a wound in space. I sat. Not because I wanted to. Because I had always been sitting here. I understood then. This wasn't a tower. It was a lighthouse. Not to warn ships of danger, but to warn something else that we were still watching. Still remembering. Because if we ever forgot, if the cycle ever broke, it would return. A thought pressed into my skull. Not words. Not voice. Just pure, suffocating knowledge. It was exiled long ago. Locked outside time. And we are the locks. I was never hired. I was chosen. Because I looked up when others didn't. And now I had to decide. Blink or burn. I reached for the panel beside the chair. One button. Labeled only. Purge. I hovered my hand above it. Behind me, I saw 1,000 reflections waiting to see what I'd choose. Each one of them me. Some hopeful. Some broken. One crying. I pressed it. The spire shook. The mirrors shattered. A scream rose, not from the forest but from the sky. It buckled. Cracked. And then light. Blinding, searing, absolute. And then, nothing. I woke up in the ranger station again. Everything was normal. Birds chirped. Radios worked. The fire tower stood tall beside me as if it had never burned. Was it all a dream? A hallucination? I don't know. But when I checked the logbook, I found an entry dated tomorrow. Scrawled in my handwriting. Cycle contained. For now. But watch the sky. Never stop watching the sky. That was a week ago. Now, the stars are moving again. I can feel it waking up. This story isn't a warning. It's a relay. If you hear this, if you remember, you're one of us now. And you have one job. Don't blink. Ever. Because the sky is watching you too. And it's so close to remembering your name. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe.